Hello, everybody. Welcome to the National Parents Union Nightly Restorative Check-In. I am your host, Marisol Rerucha. Today is Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, February 18th. As always, I'm going to introduce myself. I am the mother of Camerina, who will be 27 years old this year, and the mother to Camerina. I'm sorry, to Camerina. Yeah, she'll be the one she turns 27 next month, March 11th. I'm the mother to Emilia, who will be turned 25 this year. And tomorrow she is going into the hospital to have her third baby. She's having a son. And so we're very much looking forward to the birth of our grandson. And my third daughter is Sofia, who is 15 years old and is a sophomore in high school. I am the daughter to Irma Castro and Abraham Quevedo. I am the grandmother, as I mentioned, to two babies. One's coming, Isabela Luna and Cynthia Ileana, and our grandson, who is expected to be born tomorrow around 9 o'clock in the morning. And I am the granddaughter to Camerina, Alejandro, Francisco, and Carmen. And I always introduce myself in this way to remind me who I am and where I've come from, but also that connection for me is reminding me and reminding them to take care of our family and to take care of my daughter tomorrow, to take care of our grandson and my daughter's partner, and to take care of our grandbabies and all of us. And lastly, I'm the very proud wife of Daniel. So I see you. Hi, Ginger. Yes, I'm excited about this baby also. So she actually they don't need anything. So they had no baby shower, like no gifts. We haven't really done anything. So I just made her promise me that when she wants or she needs something to let me know. But I did buy them diapers that, you can always use diapers. And then lastly, before I go into our breathing technique, I see that our tia Yoli is here. Hi, Yoli. I miss you. I love you. The baby, so we have Luna, who's 4 years old, and Cynthia Ileana, who is 10 months old. She'll be 11 months old tomorrow. So the babies will be 11 months apart. And so they're going to be split between me and my daughter Camerina, who lives with my tia. So my tia will have the babies. And I think actually Luna's spending the night with her tonight. So we all get to have special time with the grandbabies as we're waiting for our newest love. So hi, my Yoli. So with that, we're going to go into our breathing technique, and it's the 4-7-8 breathing technique. So we inhale for 4 seconds, we hold for 7, and then we release for 8. And we do this 4 times. So, and we do this to relax. We do this to refocus. We do this to transition into a space, but this is a really phenomenal breathing technique to really be used at any time. I use this every day, at least once. Usually I use it 3 times or so throughout the day because it helps center me, it helps ground me, and it also at night helps me relax and get my breathing pattern, getting ready for sleep. But you don't have to use it for sleep. It just really, really helps us refocus. So I'm going to go ahead and lead us in the breathing technique. As we're doing it, if anything feels like you didn't get enough breath or you need to let go of your breath, just go to your regular pattern until we pick up again, because we do the 4-7-8 cycle. We do that 4 times. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. If you could please just put your feet firmly on the ground. And even though you're in a house that has a foundation, you're just connecting really with the earth, connecting with the ground. And if you like to close your eyes, just take a regular breath in and out. And inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you. Thank you for joining me in our breathing. And also, I just have a couple of quick reminders. We have our National Parents Union Town Hall tomorrow. Tamika Mallory, who was the founder, one of the founders of the Women's March, and also very active in the Black Lives Matter movement, will be our guest panelist. So please join in. Bernita Bradley, our delegate, is going to be she's going to be hosting and then also sharing her amazing poetry. It's just going to be a really phenomenal event. So please make sure that you tune in to our town hall tomorrow. So with that, I'm going to bring my guest in. Let me see here. I'm just going to switch us so you don't have the Parents Union on your head. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm better now. Thank you for that. I think that's the first time I actually breathed in 10 months.
You know, so that technique, I've actually done it a couple of times in Zoom meetings. So when we're transitioning, like, you know, when you're checking in and people aren't okay, or like they just had a real, like they're super stressed, like, oh, let's do the breathing technique before we move into our work. So I absolutely encourage you to try this with your staff or with any meetings that you have. So Nancy, I'm so happy that you're here. Ginger says hello.
Ginger.
And I think are those the praise? Is she? I don't know what. So Nancy, if you could please introduce yourself to us, and you could share anything that you would like. If you want to talk about, and you can talk about all the things. Talk about who you are in this world, why you are in this world, how you are in this world, maybe your work, your family, your work and your family, the things that you love, the things that you struggle with, whatever it is that you would like.
All right. Well, first and foremost, I am a proud mom. I have an 8-year-old boy whose name is Dominic, who is just the light of my life. And anybody who knows me, I constantly talk about him. He's very much involved in my work and the things that I do. So, you know, my second job is as the president and CEO of Chicano Federation. So, you know, our work has been important now for 52 years, but particularly during COVID because of the just, you know, intense need in the community. So we've been really busy working, you know, to serve our community and make sure that everybody has the resources and everything that they need. I'm also the proud daughter of immigrant parents who recently became U.S. citizens and just voted in their first presidential election. So that was really exciting. Yeah, and you know, just gosh, what else? What else about me? I am not from San Diego, but I don't know at what point I can say I'm from San Diego. I've been here now for, since 2007, I think. So yeah, so I've been here for a while, love San Diego, can't really see myself living anywhere else, and definitely just love the work that I do and the role that I play at Chicano Federation.
Okay, sorry. I put myself on mute because my husband was leaving and you could hear the garage door. And so so if I go back on mute, it's because he's coming back home. Let's talk about your boy. Let's talk about your son. So tell us about Dominic and what it's like for you being a mama to him, and how life is. I love that you mentioned that he's a big part of your work. So if you could just share a little bit more about that, how he's involved in the work and what it is that you do.
Yeah. So, you know, prior to working in nonprofit, so I used to own and operate my own business. And when I had Dominic, or actually, yes, when I had him, I decided, gosh, the work that I do is great, but I really want to be a good example to my son. And I want to show him that there's more to life than just making money. I mean, I had a very successful business at the time. And so I made the decision to transition into nonprofit, and to do work that was meaningful. And so he's grown up with that, right? And he's grown up going to volunteering and going to events and being involved in the work that we do. And, he's there. It's funny because he refers to himself as the CEO who does the work, and I'm the CEO who talks. Because there isn't a distribution or a volunteer event that we do that he's not at front and center, just working. And it's really cool to watch because it's very much just a part of his life. He doesn't know any different. And that's important to me.
So this just reminds me, and a little known fact. So my mom used to run the Chicano Federation when I was growing up. And growing up, I think I was 6 when she started working there. I used to answer phones. I used to fill out mailers. That was legitimately like you work when you're in that type of social service agency. And there was also, at that time, my grandmother would watch us sometimes, or my tia, but we also wanted to be with our mom. So there were so many times. And then as I grew up, I remember I would take naps under her conference table at all of the different events, along with, with the volunteer events. And food distributions, all the different programs that they run. They I don't know if you still have the leadership program that they started for community members. Yeah. It used to be at night, but that, growing up in that way, number one, I learned a lot of skills of how to be with people. And I think there's also a confidence of knowing that how to work. I would run their little phone system and then take down messages, write messages, get and handle mailers, all of that stuff. It's really beautiful life experience while also really helping the community. And one of the things that I really remember was, hearing my mom talk about the fight that they had and the reason why there was a fight. For, and the Chicano Federation is, to help Latinos in San Diego. And it's grown so much since then. She left years and years and years ago. I think I was a teenager when she left, maybe 19. So not a young teenager, but knowing how you're raising your son and that he's in that environment, it's such a beautiful gift to give him. And I think it's also a beautiful gift for the people that work with you.
Right. Yeah. And also, let's just be clear, your mom has never left the Chicano Federation. Her spirit is always there.
Yeah, definitely a fighter, that one.
Yes, no, I sometimes have to channel my she's here. I have to channel my inner Irma sometimes and be like, what would Irma do? So she is very much still there.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing of being raised by a powerful woman who isn't afraid, who not afraid to speak their voice and to use their voice and really elevate their voice. So it was powerful for me as a girl to see that, but I think also for your son.
Right. And that's a great point. I don't know that, and I think we talk about it more now, but the role that men can play in supporting and empowering and cheerleading women, right? And especially women who are in positions so I think it is important for him to see that and to understand that when he gets older, and that is a very important role that he can play, instead of, having this expectation that that's the role that, and again, anybody can play that role, but I think it's critical for him to see that.
And so he's basically running the show. I believe that he's the CEO. I believe that. How is just tell me about him and his life and what his dreams and his goals are.
He is such an old soul in terms of like the things that he says, the things he talks about, the questions that he asks me. I remember actually he was pretty young. I'd say he was maybe 3 or 4. And we were driving one day and saw some individuals who were experiencing homelessness on the side of the road. And he said, Mom, do you do anything to help people that don't have a place to live? And I said, well, yeah, honey, that is something that we do. And he said to me, that's good. I'm proud of you. And here is this little boy, right? But talking about that. And so I think a big part of what I'm excited about that he gets to see is to your point about listening to the conversations. Mm-hmm. He has language and tools that I never had, right? So he's able to identify and name certain things like microaggressions, and he's able to know when something's not right or something's not just. And in fact, I just had my parent-teacher conference, and she said, he's pretty quiet. He's a shy boy. She said, but when he feels like he's been wronged, he will let people know that there's been an injustice. And I said, I'm sorry, I think that's my influence. But you know what I mean? Like, to think of like when I was young and I didn't have that skill set. I didn't have those words and I didn't have those tools. When I see that he does, it makes me so hopeful for what his future might hold.
And what do you think? So you said you're a daughter of immigrants, so proud for your parents. And, the fact that this was the first time that they voted, and my grandparents were the first ones here, became citizens here. And I don't think once they became citizens, they always voted. I remember my abuelita always voting. And so there were things in our family that I think just generationally that we passed on. One of those being the value of education. But in your family, what are those things that your family has passed on that you're seeing now in your son?
I think it's one, yes, the love of family, right? Mm-hmm. He doesn't have siblings, but and he doesn't get to see his cousins very often just because we don't live close, and especially during COVID. But just that connection and that love, and that, just he puts family first in everything. So I think that's very cultural and really just inherent to like the values that our parents raised us with. And yes, I think education is important, and he recognizes that. But I really genuinely see his like love for people and his compassion for people, because I don't think that that's something that you necessarily teach. Mm-hmm. I think that he was born with that, and he's such a sensitive and compassionate little person that I can't imagine that he wasn't kind of born with that, and he inherited that. And the things that he does, I mean, he's just such a kind person, wouldn't ever say a negative thing about anyone. Mm-hmm. And just, the things that he gets emotional about, it just, it's really touching to see how that has kind of gone through generation, because I see a lot of my grandmother and my mom in him. I think it skipped me, but it definitely.
That's not possible. Like it's just not possible. No, I won't. That is, I'm not buying that statement that you're trying to sell me.
All right.
Well, tell me about, so I really think that our kids, I know for me, have been our greatest teachers. Or they actually have, if we allow them to have that space, right? But I could see him being one of your greatest teachers just from the way that you speak about him. So tell me, what is it that you've learned by being his mom?
Oh my gosh, so much, right? Even just in becoming a mom, I had made a decision that I did not want to have children. Mm-hmm. And that was, that just wasn't for me. And then lo and behold, surprise. So I think even just that, right, taught me that, gosh, you can plan all you want.
You didn't think you were going to have kids.
No. Mm-mm. No. In fact, I was very adamant that I was not.
This little boy was like, oh, watch me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I think even just that, right? Like I had all these plans and my life was planned out and this is what it was going to look like. And no, it didn't happen that way. But obviously it turned out better than I could have ever imagined. And being a mom has been the greatest blessing. And like you said, he's been my greatest teacher and teaching me kind of what's important. And I mean, even making the career shift that I made because I wanted to be a good example to him and I wanted to raise a good human and I wanted to raise someone who was rooted in compassion and empathy and understood that his place in this world is so much more than just him. So, I mean, he's literally changed the trajectory of my life, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, and, I think about that decision that you made. And I was young when I had my daughter. I was 19. And I was in college. I was going to Southwestern. And then I was 21 when I got pregnant with my second daughter. But I remember just wanting so much for thinking about who I wanted them to be. And I had a professor who took me through this exercise, and I had just transferred to San Diego State, and I made the decision to go into teaching. So I think it was like a psychology for educators class or something like that. But she had us go through this exercise of thinking about thinking about your children, even if you didn't have them. And a lot of people didn't have kids. Like, what do you want for them? How do you want them to be, how do you want them to act towards others? How do you want them to act towards themselves? How do you want them to be as a worker? How do you want them to be as a spouse? How do you all of these things, and going through this kind of long reflection list. It really generated for me all the things, all the beautiful things, right? The way that you talk about your son, the compassion, the empathy, the, standing up for themselves, really caring about community, the observation, looking around their world and seeing things in the world that needed positive impact. And so we finished our list and the professor was like, okay, you have to be who you want your kids to be.
Yeah. Right. It's so funny. There used to be this quote that I loved that it was, be the type of woman you'd want to have lunch with. But since having my son, it's shifted to be the type of woman you'd want your son to be with, right? Have those characteristics and those, and it guides a lot of what I do. Right. And because they say that, eventually, they're either attracted to the complete opposite of what their mom is or someone who's like them. And I hope that he, he's able to carry that with him.
Well, and I just think that's such a beautiful way of looking at life in your actions, because for most of us, our children are our most precious gifts in this world. They are the beings that we love the most, we care for the most, we worry about the most, we pour into the most. They're really the beings. And it's I think it's such an honor to be a mom, to be able to be a parent in whatever form that your child comes to you. But to be a mom, the sacredness of that, of holding that space for your child. And so thinking about so then just thinking about the way that you love them, right? And then thinking about, from what you're saying, the person then that you would want them to be with, and rising to that challenge. Because in that space, that space between who you are and who you who you want for your child, there's a lot of growth, because we're human beings.
Right.
That space is where we meet our egos, where we meet our issues with control, where we meet whatever issues are issues of self-esteem. In that space is where our work is.
Absolutely. And I think, in letting them be who they are, not who I thought that he would be. Right. And the other part that I think I've had to confront and that he has taught me is to how to break some generational cycles as well. Right. And really confront those and understand, gosh, this played a role in who I have become, but it doesn't have to play a role in who he becomes. And that can be hard, right? And understanding like, oh, ouch, like this really impacted me. But if I don't deal with it and confront it, it will also impact him. And there's nothing more that I want for this not to carry on and be part of his story.
What is a cycle or some cycles that you know that you've broken?
I think in terms of communication, right? I mean, really, so I made the decision from day one that I would never lie to him. And that included, I mean, things like Santa Claus, right? So I remember getting a message from a parent when he was in preschool saying, your kid told my kid that there's no such thing as Santa Claus. Why? Right? Mm-hmm. And I said, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I will talk to him. And so it was having those conversations like, in our house, Santa Claus is just pretend. And, he would say to me, he said, but why do other parents tell their, why do other parents? And I'm like, honey, I don't know, but I'm telling you that in our house it's just pretend. And he was like, but that's lying, right? And so things like that, like I promised him I would never lie. I promised myself I would never lie across the board. And so thinking about like some of the things that I believed and some of the things that I was told when I was little, and I was like, yeah, okay, no, like I'm going to do that differently. Mm-hmm. And some of it has been hard. And obviously like, there's like the corporal punishment, right? And we work with parents also, in trying to help parents to become better parents, where disciplining your child physically is just a part of what they've grown up with, and having to address those types of things and really dissecting them into like, wait, why do we do this? And do we have to continue? So
just so much like a different way of thinking about parenting, like just really being thoughtful. I think about, and you talked about it earlier, like why we are the way that we are and how our childhood or how we were parented, how that impacted who we are, and not wanting that to impact our kids in a negative way. That was my mom that says that you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
My oldest daughter, I think I will say like one of the generational cycles that, and the only reason why and I'm realizing it now as I've gotten older, the only reason why I was able to break the cycles that I've been able to break is because my parents did the work that they needed to do. Like they did some work, so that allowed me to do work, which is now allowing kids to do even more work, right? The hope. But one of those, I think, and I will say, I'm just going to, Mom, I know you're watching, but, my mom was so committed to the community, and community came first. And it wasn't that she didn't love us. My mother loved us, but the community and what the community needed even came, I think, above herself. And that is something that I think that our generation has worked on recovering some of like protecting ourselves, and also really protecting and prioritizing our family in a different way. And I think that that's also part of that generation of activists that were, that gave their lives, literally gave their lives to their causes and their movements. And I think our generation kind of looked a little bit differently in that, like the realization of the importance that our parents have. And I remember, I found myself when I was a principal working crazy hours, and I realized like someone else could do my job. Somebody else could be a principal. They're not going to be me as a principal, right? Like nobody could replace me. Somebody else could be a principal. And legit, somebody else could be a wife to my husband. Nobody could be a mother to my kids. And that like helps, and that reminds me also of the importance of learning to take care of myself and trying to be healthy so that I can be healthy for them, so that they can also learn to be healthy. But this work, like this generational work, woo. And I think about them, right, and their futures, and I wonder like, okay, what's their next steps? Because they got to get some stuff figured out.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think what you said is so powerful about you're the only one that could be a mother to your children. And, along the lines of kind of how it started, also being a single mom. So I am a single mom, right? So that there's that component too, is that like, I'm the only one that could be a parent to my child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is his dad or biological father in the picture? Mm-hmm.
Yes, but not like I am.
You're really your mom. You're the parent.
Yes.
Your mom. Yeah. And the way everything that you're talking about. So I think in that parenting role that when you're living with your parent, also like that's your family. That's your family unit.
Yes.
That's your family unit. And nobody in this world nobody else could be Dominic's mom.
Exactly. Yes, I agree. But you're right. Anyone, well, I shouldn't say that. I won't say that anyone can be CEO of Chicano Federation.
Nobody could be you in that role. Nobody
Right.
can do the work and have the impact because we're all such beautiful individual spirits that are meant to do specific work in this life. So nobody can be you in that role, but someone else could do all the job.
For sure. Absolutely.
But nobody can take your place with your kid. Nobody.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, thank you for that reminder because it is important to have that sometimes.
Well, because the work is so big, you talked about the work a little bit and meeting the needs of the community, especially during COVID. And the Chicano Federation strives. There's so many programs that you run, and there's so much, right? Like there's so much need, and you also have a staff.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as somebody who is the leader of an organization, there is a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of that falls on you. There's a lot of people looking to you, and all of that takes a lot of work and a lot of time.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, and especially during COVID, right? I mean, it's been so heavy. The work has been heavy, especially for my team who has to answer the phones and hear the stories. I mean, there was a period where we were getting, we'd walk into 100 voicemails, and it was just story after story of, you have to help me. I have nowhere else to go. Right. And so there were times where I'd walk out and, have to ask my staff, just put down the phone, just go for a walk. It doesn't matter if the phone's ringing, just go. And so yes, it is a big role to honor the work that they do and give them the grace and the space that they need, and also be meeting the needs of so many people who need our services and who need our support. So I think we found a way to balance the two, but the work is definitely heavy right now.
I continue to grow in my understanding and my appreciation of the concept of yin and yang and the concept of light and dark, right? And I think the concept of balance. And the reality is that I've noticed in life is that there's always there's always so much, if you look at it, right, there's so many blessings, there's so much goodness, there's so much light, there's so much to be grateful for. There's so much that you could really like just pour that appreciation for, but there's always going to be something that's not okay. Mm-hmm. There's always going to be something that could either be like drama or pain or, there's always going to be, because it's balance. There's balance in life. And I think, in saying that in the world, there's always going to be balance. And so there's always going to be people in need. There's always going to be people, who are on one end who are doing well, and there's always going to be people in need. But in order for us people who are serving, right, who are there to support and serve and walk in that life with people who are trying to transform themselves, their situations, their families, who may be deep in the struggle, like you have to take care of yourself to be able to show up for them. And because the need's going to always be there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a really great point. And, just there's also the part that I think feeds my soul is knowing that we've done that also, right? Like, so I can't like when I get those emails, I get a lot of emails. Some of them are nice, saying thank you, or, just kind of reaching out to say, this is the impact that we made. I mean, that to me just fuels me to do more. And And then, there's the advocacy piece too, is like, speaking out on issues and calling attention to things that need attention. And that, like you said, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because I know that there's the need to do that, but I know that there's people that are going to get upset when we speak out on issues and take stances. So again, it's back to that, yes, while this is a good thing, there can be some consequences. And so you're right. I mean, it's striking a balance that is comfortable for each one of us and that feels right.
Yeah, I see Ginger wrote a long message here, so I wanted to give us a minute, and then I'm going to push you on what you just said. And yes, that people know that places like Chicano Federation exist. People know that nonprofits exist to help them. And, also, I'm just going to say, when you were talking about being an entrepreneur, right, and wanting to do good in the world and wanting to go the nonprofit route, I always think of my dear friend Ginger Hitsky, who is an entrepreneur. Like, she created Hitsky Development and owns housing, housing units, but also, provides housing for low income and seniors. And that work. And what I love about her is, if you talk about like that heart that she has for taking care of our community, she doesn't see it that it has to be through the nonprofit lens. Like, I love one time she was like, no, like, I want to decide what I do with my money. I don't want, like in the nonprofit world, people coming in, and giving me grants or government grants and then having to do what it is that they say, but I want to help in the way that I want to help. And I think she's a beautiful example of somebody who is really, who built a business to support the community and uplift the community. And all the time that she gives, she's on the commission for, is it the planning? The Planning Commission in San Diego. So she's definitely somebody that I look to that has figured out how to be an entrepreneur and support her family and build generational wealth very proudly, and still like 100% down for the community, like 100% down for the fight. So I want to go back to the advocacy piece, because it's something I struggle with too. And I'm going to tell you, so I struggle with a couple of things, but I think in San Diego, for the most part, we don't want to make waves. Like, for the most part, in San Diego, people are not, we don't have a lot of radical type of movements. And I think that there's, from what I see, like there's a political space, and part of what you were talking about, like not wanting to push or not, but I think, and I think about this for myself because I was in education and now I work for the National Parents Union, and we just had, I am an educator. I still work with educators. I was in the system 21 years plus. It has a lot of my heart. And my networks, people that I love, like education, that's my thing. But I see that, and the National Parents Union made a statement about Cindy Martin, who's the superintendent of San Diego Unified, being selected as the number 2, position, and there's opposition. And I know in San Diego, there were a lot of groups that were hesitant, and people knowing there were things that had happened with kids and with families, and getting shut down, but people have not. And I think it's that part of what you're talking about, like those political movements. And I think, sometimes some stuff, has come out, and I absolutely, as far as, like the teachers union is absolutely a, what do they call them? Is not a PAC. They're a special interest group. Mm-hmm. They absolutely are. And I want teachers to be taken care of. I was in administration. I know administrators that hurt teachers. Like, I know they absolutely need to have protections. But like, bottom line, public education is about kids. And who is standing up for our kids? And so especially our kids whose parents may not even know their voice. Especially so our English learner parents, our immigrant parents, our parents who have suffered with substance abuse, incarceration. Like, who else is going to be the voice?
Absolutely.
And, if there's a ship I'm going to rock, it's going to be for the kids. If I'm going to have people mad at me for standing up for what's right for kids, then so I think there's a space for that I know I'm growing in that advocacy realm of like some things are just not okay. And if you're going to be upset with me about that for political reasons, then I'm going to have to learn how to go to bed at night and sleep well.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And it, you know, to your point about the nomination of Cindy Martin, my stance was, what message are we sending to the students who were harmed under this quote unquote leadership? That's what I care about, is that there are students who suffered, and we have people who are applauding this. And like, what message does that send to these kids? And yes, I agree with you. I think that situation in and of itself was a very clear example of what's at play in San Diego. And the fact that there wasn't a huge outcry about that. And, you know, it's not a matter of opinion. There's data, there's numbers to support that. So yes, I agree with you. You know, one of the issues that I've long had with nonprofit is that the fact that, you know, funding is tied to it. And a lot of times people think about the funding and how will this affect my funding? And, you know, I get it. I get it. Nonprofits are trying to survive, but at the same time, we have a really important role to play in serving the community by any means necessary. And sometimes that means doing what's right and not what's popular.
Yeah. You know, I think part of that, what you talked about with nonprofits and like their funding, it's fear.
Yeah.
There's a fear. And I think that that's also a little bit of an undercurrent, right? Yes. Of being that voice of, you know, like if you're not grounded and if you are not firm in what it is that you stand in and you believe in, and you also are not confident in your ability to XYZ. Mm-hmm. So in your ability to find alternate sources of funding, and your ability to, if you lose your job, get another job. Like if you are not grounded in who you are and what you know, then fear can absolutely run you.
Absolutely.
And that's a space of growth.
Well, and I always reflect back to the history of the organization, right? When there were leaders like your mom who were very vocal. And yet the organization is still standing 52 years later. So clearly, right? Yeah. Yes. Are we going to lose some funders? Probably. And we'll gain other ones. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, honestly, Nancy, the times are changing. Mm-hmm. My little 15-year-old and your baby, like, and my grandbabies, like these Gen Zers. Like they're not this way. Like they're not letting stuff pass anymore. Like they do not. We were watching. Sophia and I were watching a movie. Oh, you know what? We watched the Britney Spears documentary.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And there were interviews. The way that they were interviewing her as a young woman and the things that they were talking about. It was maybe 15 years ago, but we were both like, "Ooh, like that would not."
Right. And we probably watched it and didn't think anything of it at the time. But to your point, like this generation is not going to let that slide. My son's favorite thing is to call out mock Spanish, right? If someone's using words like that's mock Spanish. Don't do that. Right? mock Spanish, like when they you know, like using Spanish is like almost like as a joke, or like, you know, when people who don't speak Spanish or being very protective of mock Spanish. Yeah.
Mock Spanish. I had not heard that term. And he's like, nah. Mm-hmm. Is he bilingual or multilingual?
He is not around me. For some reason, he won't speak Spanish around me, but if I'm speaking Spanish and I'm talking about him, he knows exactly what I'm saying.
See, they're not. So some of the things that we're talking about, like this is again where I go to like, we're doing our work, right? But this next generation will be handling stuff. They're gonna figure out the climate crisis. But these things, and I think also what we're talking about, just, you know, and politically, and I think in movements and activism here in our local city, like it's just not going to be allowed to continue that way. Like business is the status quo. In some ways is continuing to die. And like you said, like the Chicano Federation will continue to stand because, the organization continues to be responsive to the needs of the community. And when you're there at the forefront, being responsive and pushing the needs, then you will also attract those that are at the forefront wanting to make sure that that work happens.
Yes, absolutely. It's so interesting whenever I go, on television, or, the other day I did an interview on NPR National about Mexicans, who are coming to the US to get the vaccine. And of course, I had something to say about that. But immediately after, I will get flooded with messages. Some will be, yes, great, keep up the good work. And then we'll get, some donations. And then there'll be the other side of, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. And so it's just really interesting to kind of watch that dynamic play out, right? But you're right. There will always be the supporters who believe in what we're doing, who believe in what we're saying, and who appreciate that we're being vocal about issues that matter.
So I have a question for you, and I want to cover, I hope we can cover a couple things, but I think that piece of like getting that kind of a message of people who could just be mean or mean-spirited, like it can still hurt, right? Like, even though you're like, ooh, that's not my people, those are not my gente, like, but people not sending you positive energy can be hurtful. And I think especially when they're intentionally trying to be hurtful, but also with your work and with, being a mom and being a human being, how do you take care of yourself? How do you keep your cup full so that you can continue to give to others?
So before so I have a background in health and wellness. I have a master's degree in exercise physiology. That's what my business was in. So health is really important to me, and making sure that I'm exercising. If I'm not exercising, I'm a very different person. So that's my time, right? Whether it's outside, going hiking, like making sure that I incorporate exercise into my life is really important to me. And then I love our little routines, right? Like, so my son and I have time where we, every night before bed, we make time to sit and talk about whatever we need to, right? We talk about the best thing that happened today, the thing that wasn't so good that happened today, like, what do we hope for tomorrow? And that time is so, like, I live for that moment, right? To be able to have that space and that time where everything is put away, nothing else matters, just that time where we're just talking and sharing. So I think little things like that, like, Sundays are, chicken and waffle days at our house, right? And like making sure that we have those things to look forward to, because we used to love to travel, and obviously we can't do that. So incorporating other things that really are meaningful to us and to me, and that I have those little nuggets to look forward to.
So I think I could totally see how the physical health component also impacts your mental, your emotional, your social health, right? Like all of those things. But is there anything sometimes in those other areas that you have to pay special attention to?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like you said, like understanding, not internalizing some of this negative energy that sometimes comes our way. I think when I take it personal, or I have to really check in with myself not to take it personal, is when I get some of that negative energy from other Latina women. Right? The other ones I can kind of brush off, but when it comes from Latinas, that requires a little bit more work on my part to say, you know what, this isn't about me. This is about something that they're going through, or something that they're processing. But that definitely, it takes some intentional work.
Yeah, just the hurtfulness, you saying that, it hurts. So I'd like you to know that this little Latina made a comment about your nuggets of happiness. And I think so thank you for sharing that. One of the things that one of my comadre, my best friend, my sister, her mom used to say, Dr. Sharon Grant Henry, she used to say that when we um, when we're in relationship with each other. And I think in relationship, I also, take that to mean that we're pouring love, wisdom, challenge, common experiences, but you become a part of each other's DNA. Mm-hmm. And when you become a part of each other's DNA, then that impacts our bloodline, right? Like there's things that I know, there's things that I absolutely know that like my mother's comadre, like that either said or did, or even things that like her family did that we now do in our family that I grew up doing. And I think, you sharing about your nuggets of happiness, like that exchange, that's now poured into my daughter. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's so like, those are the moments that I hope that we continue to learn how to like hang on to and not like let on to that, and really like accepting it in your spirit and in your soul.
But it takes work, right? It's intentional, not to just be like, of course we did that. Like that's what we're supposed to do, because that's what comes naturally to me. And so really pausing to say, gosh, yeah, okay. How thoughtful of them to send this message and to take the time out to really thank us for what we're doing or the work that we're doing. So yeah, it doesn't come natural, at least not to me.
Well, I think there's a lot of things about being a woman. So my baby said that she's keeping it with me, the little nuggets of happiness. So I'm sure for the rest of her life, she's going to be talking about, like making sure that she is creating nuggets of happiness.
Yes. And it's so important. And like, they're so meaningful for my son, right? Like things that I don't think that he would, care about or whatever. He'll remember those things. Like on Sunday, he'll be like, aren't you going to make chicken and waffles? Like it's Sunday, right? Where I'm just like, oh yeah, of course.
I'll get some happiness.
So yeah, I think those are far more impactful than even I realized.
Yeah, I think also just going back to the like why it's so hard. I think as women, I think also as Latinas, like there is a thing about not like ¿quién te crees? Like who do you think you are? Right? Like you're getting too big. Getting too big for your britches. But like those sentiments of not like taking on, really owning again, like those good things that are reflected back to us and the good impacts that we've made, because we're almost trained to absolutely believe all the negative things. And that's part of, I think, when you talked about like why it hurts so much coming from a Latina, because that's part of our training, and then to continue to perpetuate it, right? Like to not do that work that that's been assigned to you. Right. To heal from that, like to not do your own work and continue to perpetuate it is what's so hurtful and harmful.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And I think that there's a lot of those, right? Going back to like the cycles and breaking those cycles. Also like asking for help, right? That doesn't come easy. And I know for me, when I need help the most is when I retreat the most, right? Nobody talk to me, leave me alone. I've got it. And those are the moments that like, I need people and I need help. And it's really hard. It's hard for me to ask for help.
I have a really hard time. I think so, the help piece, but I get stuck like that where like, I don't know what to do when, so I'll give you an example, and it has to do with recognition. And so my daughters had been asking me, so I have a book that's coming out and it keeps getting delayed. Anyway, it's probably not coming out till March. I'm going to tell people it'll come out in June, so it'll be exciting when it comes out in April. So, my daughters, like they kept asking me about it. And anyway, they had asked me like, hey, can we come have a game night? And so my oldest daughter, Camerina, is 27, or she'll be 27 in a couple weeks. And Emilia, who's pregnant, is 25. So they came over, it was a couple Fridays ago. And I was just sitting here and I saw a box in my living room that I knew didn't belong there, but I just, like it was, anyway. So they came in and Camerina brought me the box and she said, we're really proud of you for having written the book. And so like we kept asking you because we got you a gift. And when I opened it, I realized that they had gotten me a Cricut machine. which is a crafting machine. I know it cost them a couple of $100s. Oh my God, my daughter said she's going to be 28. No, you're not. She's not turning 28. She's turning, oh my gosh. Oh my God. No, you're not, Camerina. Okay, Nancy, help me right now. Oh, you are not. Oh my God. She was born in 1994. She's turning 27. She was born in 94.
94. Yeah, I don't. Wait. I don't know. I don't have it. I was like, let me check my math.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I'm getting hot. Kid, you're turning 27. 1994. So anyway, let me tell you the story. So I realized it, and I couldn't keep. They had wrapped all the there were these vine. There was a bunch of little pieces. I couldn't open it. I just sat there, and I was so overwhelmed. And I didn't open the box until this weekend, and it was about 2 weeks ago, because it was so overwhelming to me that somebody would recognize, not just somebody, my children would have feel moved to recognize me for having done something, for having written a book, that they would come together to gift me something. And it really literally froze me.
Oh.
And I think that that's part of the asking for help work. I've gotten better with that, but that's something that I want to continue to work on, because it doesn't allow for that flow,
Right.
But it was just really overwhelming. Okay, so Ginger Hitsky, thank you, Ginger. Her son was also born in 94. She said that my daughter's 27.
Ginger comes through.
I really started sweating.
Well, we cleared that up. That's funny. Your story reminded me of something. And I've kept this little nugget with me because it was so meaningful, and I would share it with you. So I remember someone had done something really just kind of what I thought is over the top kind for me. And I said to him at the time, I said, why would you do this for me? Why? And he said, if you hadn't been who you were to me, I wouldn't be who I am to you. Right. And so, yeah, to your point, if you weren't who you are to your children, they wouldn't be who they are to you. So yes, let's accept it and embrace it, because people are the way they are to us because of who we've been to them.
And that, I think that flow of energy, that flow of acceptance, that flow, I want to continue to allow that to flow, because I want that for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I want that for all of us. Yes. I want all of us to have that love for ourselves and that acceptance. And so and to interrupt it, it stopped it, so thank you for that. And it's something I'm going to keep working on. Okay, we only have a couple minutes. But so this is something I've been doing at the end of the show in practice of what I'm talking about. So we're going to share 5 things that we're proud of, but they're things that we have done. So it can't be I'm proud of my son because he did XYZ. No, these are 5 things that you are proud of. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make you go first.
Great. I was like, okay, she's going to give me time to think.
Okay, no, I'll go first. Let me see. I'm going to break out some oldies but goodies because I'm so proud of them. But I am, okay, so actually, I'm really, really proud that I have done the work that I needed to do in this world to be in the positions that I'm in, so that I could take 2 weeks off and support my daughter and be with our grandbabies. And so that's one, but I think also, knowing that we have financial security in a way that I hadn't known, but that I'm able to provide resources that are needed for my family. I'm really, really proud of that. I'm also proud, okay, number 3, I'm proud that I'm learning how to protect myself, but protect my thinking around things. And because I've noticed sometimes in my work, like I'll share something and then someone will own it, and I'm like, oh, but I wasn't like ready to give it up yet, like I wasn't. And so I'm learning how to not share everything, which I think is an okay thing, until I'm ready for it to be shared and ready to move forward. Number 4, I'm still super proud of my plants. I'm a plant mom, and they're doing really well, except for my peace lily. But I've been reading, and it says that they get really sad and weepy. So she looks like she wants to die. But all of my other plants, oh my gosh, they're doing so well. And then number 5, I am super proud that I have been. I've been spending some money at Target and buying myself some super cute clothes. So I be looking cute around my house during these COVID days. I order like $25 dresses, and I'll be like, do a little fashion show. And so yes, those are my 5 things. Okay, you're up.
Okay. Well, I love that. I'm proud of the relationships that I have crafted in terms of like, because I love fiercely, right? And so like taking care of and nurturing the relationships where that ferocity is appreciated and reciprocated. And so I have those friendships, and I'm so proud that I've nurtured them and built that trust with people. I'm proud that I have found a space where I feel confident speaking about the issues that matter to me and that are important to me. And it's not necessarily just through my work, but just as a being, right? I am very confident in the things that I say and the way that I advocate. And I'm proud of that because it took some work. Mm-hmm. I'm proud of the life that I have built for me and my son, and that, even as a single mom, I have financial stability, we have a home, we have everything that we need. And I'm proud that I've been able to provide that. Gosh, what else? This is harder than I thought. Two more. I'm proud that I've been able to fill a space and a role for my parents, and that they can come to me when they need anything. And that's so meaningful to me because obviously they were that for me at one point, and now I am that for them, and I'm proud of that. And then, gosh, last, I will have to say that I'm proud of the work that we do at Chicano Federation, and I'm proud of the way in which the team has just really stepped up during this time, which has not been easy for anyone. And I'm proud of the role that I've played in that.
That's what I was going to push you right now. This was such a beautiful hour, and I am so grateful to have spent it with you. I cannot wait for COVID to be over and for us to go out to coffee with Dominic. I'll bring Luna. Yes. Watch out, she's probably going to fall in love with him. Before we go, see, you were looking so gorgeous on Valentine's Day. Oh, that wasn't, thank you. I think that was for me. But my kid says much love to you. So with that, we are going to say good night. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations on your new grandbaby. Sending lots of positive energy.
Thank you. I'm worried about my kid. But so thank you. So don't forget to watch the show on Friday, Dr. Anjali. I know she's going to have an amazing guest. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night, and know that you are loved and cared for always. Good night.